Hi, I'm Mr. Buckingham, and this video is on nucleic acids. So DNA and RNA, you might have heard of it. DNA and RNA is going to control what is going to be made in our bodies, and that what is going to be made is going to be our proteins. And the proteins, again, are going to be able to perform certain functions in our groups and what makes you or what makes me. So this is a picture of DNA. DNA is double-stranded. And this, to the right image, is going to be a code, a sample code of someone's DNA. So it's a gobbledygook, and it's just a bunch of letters together, and you can see that they're A, C, T, and G. So I know this is DNA and not RNA because there's no uracil or there's no U in there, which we'll get to. So we can say that maybe this section or this code could make a certain protein. So that code is going to tell our bodies, okay, this, 3 letters, so the first one, CAT, is going to code for this amino acid. And then the next one is going to be GAC, and then we want another amino acid there, and it's going to be different. And so it's going to be that unique chain of amino acids, which then is going to form certain proteins in our bodies that are going to be a unique structure and function. So on this video, we're going to talk about the structure of nucleic acids, and a nucleotide is going to be the monomer for nucleic acids. And it's going to contain a nitrogenous base, phosphate group, and a pentose sugar. Then we're going to talk about how nucleotides bond with each other, and there are going to be 2 different ways it can bond. They can bond. And examples of nucleotides will be guanine, so this is going to be the G, thymine, which is going to be the T, adenine, and cytosine. There is another one, uracil, and that's going to be for RNA only. And we're going to talk about adenine in particular, and there's a unique nucleic acid called ATP, which we need for energy in our body. It's super important. So this is a generic DNA drawing, and a lot of people draw it this way because it has the 2 strands with each other, and then it has like the little rungs of the ladder going up. So what is the actual structure of this drawing? And they are going to be nucleotides. So a nucleotide is going to be one of these parts, and it's going to have 3 major parts to it. So if we talk about one of them, it's going to have a phosphate group. So this is a single DNA nucleotide. Phosphate group, and that's going to be inorganic, so it's not going to contain carbon. It's going to be bonded to a pentose sugar, and the pentose sugar is going to be a carbohydrate, and it's going to have 5 carbons ordered like this, and we're going to talk about later the 3rd carbon. And then it's going to have a nitrogenous base, and the nitrogenous base is going to have nitrogen. So if we split that apart, nitro meaning nitrogen, you can see these little nitrogen atoms there. And then if we split apart pentose, pent meaning 5, that's why it's called a pentose sugar. So in DNA, we can have 4 different types of nucleotides, and those are going to be cytosine, thymine, adenine, and guanine. For the main structure of DNA, we have the sugar phosphate backbone, and those do not change from nucleotide to nucleotide at all. If we change from DNA to RNA, RNA is going to be single-stranded, and it's going to contain uracil instead of thymine. So replace all those U's, or replace all those T's with U's. All right, so we can also categorize the different nucleotides into their shapes. So the smaller nucleotides are going to be pyrimidines, and the larger nucleotides are going to be called purines. So how I remember this, and it's kind of opposite, is that pyrimidine is a larger word, but the pyrimidines are a smaller molecule. The purines, which is a smaller word, is going to go with the larger nucleotides, the larger molecules. All right, so how do they actually bond together? And this will inform a lot of what we'll talk about later into cell energy and our DNA unit as well. So first we can get one strand, so the vertical bonding. And if we take cytosine, let's say, and then it will start building down, and then the next one is going to be adenine. They will dehydrate, so just like all of the other macromolecules, they will dehydrate, and it will become a covalent bond, and it will go from the third carbon, we just write that as 3'. The bond will happen from the third carbon to the phosphate group. And then another nucleotide will come over and it will bond with the same thing. So the third carbon of that sugar to the next phosphate, and so on. So that's one type, or one way that the nucleotides will bond together. And then we can bond them so that it makes a double strand. And so we're going to talk about DNA. How does DNA become a double strand? So we have our vertical alignment here, and then we make another vertical alignment of those nucleotides that will be running the opposite direction completely, and they will bond together. So now the nitrogenous bases are going to be bonding together by hydrogen bonds. So A always goes with T unless it's a terrible mutation, and they will have 2 hydrogen bonds. C will bond with G, memorize that, and they're going to have a triple hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bonds aren't generally super strong, but if we put all of those hydrogen bonds between all of our DNA, which is huge in all of our bodies, DNA is actually a pretty strong structure. So just to review DNA and RNA, DNA double-stranded, RNA single strand, and we have for DNA cytosine, guanine, adenine, thymine, and then we have a different one, uracil, for RNA, and they're going to be little hydrogen bonds between each of the latter parts of DNA, and they're going to have either a double or a triple bond depending on if it's A, T, or C and G together. All right, the unique nucleotide, adenosine triphosphate, so tri, meaning that it's going to have 3 phosphate groups, and adenosine is going to just be an adenine nitrogenous base, and it still has the pentose sugar. So there is bonding energy between the phosphate groups, the bonded phosphate groups, and if we break that bond, it will be able to transfer energy to another molecule, and usually that other molecule is going to be an enzyme in our bodies, and it will be able to perform a certain function. So if we break it apart, the common one is an inorganic phosphate will then break off, and now we have ADP, so it's going to be diphosphate, so only 2 phosphates left. And in our cell energy, when we talk about cell energy, we'll talk about the conversion from ATP, which is going to have a lot of energy, to ADP, which is going to have a little bit less energy. And then the conversion back from ADP to ATP. So that ATP, blah, 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 we talk about often. And go ahead and fill in the empty boxes, and that's it. Thanks for watching.